Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Please take your seats. Good morning. Please take your seats. We are about to start. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I call to order the 6th plenary meeting of the committee. Please take your seats. Before proceeding with the agenda for this meeting, I would like, on behalf of the committee, to pay tribute to the memory of the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology of Ghana, His Excellency Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, and the Minister of Defense of Ghana, His Excellency Edward Omane Boama. Both of them passed away tragically on 6 August, together with other government officials. I am sure I'm speaking for all of us as I extend our deepest sympathy and heartfelt condolences to the government and people of Ghana and to their families for this tragic loss of life. I now invite everyone to stand and observe a minute of silence in tribute to their memory. Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, today marks the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples as decided by the UN General Assembly in its resolution 49/214. We are reminded of the profound role indigenous peoples play as knowledge holders, environmental stewards, and defenders of rights. As part of the commemoration of this important day, the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on Plastics and I will hold a moment of observance today at 3 p.m. in Conference Room 7. All participants are welcome to join us. Distinguished delegates, the committee will now continue its consideration of Agenda Item 4, entitled Preparation of an International Legally Binding Instrument on Plastic Pollution, including in the marine environment. To begin, I wish to inform that, at the request of some members, I have included the diplomatic conference preparation under Agenda Item 5 on other matters. Distinguished delegates, the main purpose of our plenary meeting today is to take stock of progress made and outcomes of the contact groups and to decide on the way forward. I would like to recall that at the plenary meeting on Tuesday, the committee agreed that the progress of discussions in the contact groups as on Friday will be assembled by the Secretariat into a single document. This document has been made available as Conference Room Paper 1 in time for our plenary meeting today. This assembled document represents a snapshot of the status of the discussions in the contact groups as of yesterday evening and was put together for informational purposes. I will now invite the co-chairs of the contact groups to report on the progress of their work. Distinguished delegates, I invite the committee to join me. I invite the committee to join me in appreciating the tireless efforts of our co-chairs who have tried their best to move the work of their respective contact groups forward. I now invite the co-chairs of Contact Group 1 to provide a short report on the progress of the report. Ambassador Ikeda and Mr. Bogman, you have the floor from the seat of Brazil.
Thank you so much. Also for all the trust that has been given to us and reporting back here from the seat of Brazil and their great hospitality. So I can report that the contact group has met 5 times, once on Tuesday, August the 5th, where we discussed first Article 2 definitions and secondly scope and Article 6. Twice we met on Wednesday, August 6th, where we discussed Article 3 and 5. In the morning session, we had an initial exchange of views on Article 3 and established an informal co-facilitated by Brazil, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, and Singapore. An informal was requested to discuss the elements of the chair's text and proposals by members. In the evening session, the informal reported back and requested more time to work and was given a mandate to do so. When we moved to Article 5, plastic product design, 4 comprehensive proposals were presented before we discussed the way forward. It was agreed to reconvene on Thursday, August the 7th, and to begin textual negotiations on the chair's text. So for Thursday, 7th of August, in the afternoon session, the group returned to Article 5 and undertook a first full reading. An informal group, led by Argentina and the Netherlands, was requested to analyze the chair's text as amended by CG1, incorporating members' views with a view to streamline the text and to support compromise. On Friday, there was one informal on Article 3 and Article 5 in the morning. We had a short session of the CG where we heard reports from the informals, discussed the progress to date, as well as the way forward for this plenary. After the meeting, there was another session of the Article 3 informals, which is not reflected in the report of this group or the assembled document. The results, though, are available on the documents portal. So on the current status on some of the items, before I hand over to my distinguished co-chair Angelica, so far we have no text that has been agreed upon, and any of the items on our mandate, and for some, no textual negotiations were conducted. So what are you seeing in the assembled document presented to the plenary is only a snapshot of where we are right now. The footnotes included for each part are clarifying this. No text was forwarded to the plenary for consideration or forwarding to the legal drafting group. So to summarize briefly for each item, we have had discussions on scope where we have heard many differing views from members, including the following. Members who wished to insert an article on the chair's text and others who didn't. We heard different proposals for scope, and we heard some members indicate that they consider the scope, if at all, is described in UNEA Resolution 5.14. The assembled text includes a placeholder for an article on scope placed after the objective. This placeholder includes footnotes stating the respective, what I mentioned before, that is a placeholder for an article on scope without prejudging its integration or potential location in the final text. Again, more time is needed for discussions on scope. On Article 3, we heard differing views on the need of having a dedicated article on definitions, as well as on which terms should be defined. Submissions were received with proposed text and definitions, and for new terms to be included. Based on the discussions and text proposals, there appears to be growing support for addressing definitions at least for 4 key terms in the instrument: plastic, plastic products, plastic waste, and plastic pollution, but different definitions of those. Regardless would be the placement. There also was discussion of the necessity of some terms that are currently included in the chair's text, but may have widely agreed terms, for example, such as party. The chair's text for Article 2 is included in the assembled text, with a footnote again stating that the original formulation of the chair's text has been used. There is no agreement on it, and no textual negotiations have been undertaken on its content so far. More time is needed for the definitions discussions, and sorry for that. The discussion probably also needs to take place at a later time once there is more clarity on the actual provisions of the instrument. With that, I hand over to Angelica to focus on the following articles.
Maybe I should, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Axel. It's been a pleasure to work with you. It seems we think things so in a manner that's so similar that we're actually dressed the same this morning, which we haven't talked about it previously. It's funny, I know. So on Article 3, and thank you for being here with us, with the Brazilian delegation this morning. On Article 3, differing views were expressed, and there was no progress in advancing the text. An informal group was formed to facilitate progress on the text. Submissions were received that are available on the INC in-session documents platform. There is no agreement on the text at this stage, and rather it reflects the status of text for Article 3 as of 8th of August, 2 p.m. It provides a snapshot of progress while the work is still ongoing in the informal setting. The informal group met again last night. We understand they completed the first reading of Article 3, but given the timing, the informal has not had a chance to report back to the contact group on this progress, and so, for this reason, the assembled document does not reflect this progress at this stage. But we thank you very much for having conducted those informals that advanced the consideration of the text. Clearly, more time is needed for discussion on Article 3. Article 4 was discussed in contact group meetings together with Article 3. The chair's text for Article 4 is included in the assembled text with a footnote that this is the original formulation in the chair's text. There is no agreement on it, and no textual negotiations have been undertaken on its content so far. More time is needed for discussion in order to advance on Article 4, particularly in connection to Article 3. On Article 5, a full reading of Article 5 was done in the contact group, and an informal group was formed to advance this text. The text posted from the informal groups reflects the status of text for Article 5 as of 12/10, 8th of August, and is included in the assembled text. As reported by the co-facilitators to the contact group, following an exercise to make sure that all views on paragraph 1 had been incorporated in the previous CG session, the informal group agrees that the text as adapted provides a stable basis to start negotiations and started to find common ground. More time is needed for discussion on Article 5. I actually have to make a quick note on this, on the assembled document on 5. I was just informed by the Secretariat that the version you're going to see in the assembled text is an earlier one. This is a technical mistake that happened when assembling the document. We're running to rectify it. So please don't be worried. We know that this is not the version that has to be there, but we're making an effort to correct this. On Article 6, we heard different views. We heard from members who favor a standalone article, bridging proposals, and from members who do not wish to see this article reflected in the text. Submissions were received on Article 6 that are available on the INC in-session documents platform. The chair's text for Article 6 is included in the assembled text with a footnote that this is just the original formulation in the chair's text. There is no agreement on it, and no textual negotiations have been undertaken on its content so far. More time is needed for discussion on Article 6. As immediate next steps, and please, everybody from Contact Group 1, pay attention to this. We propose that our two informal groups continue to progress today on Article 3 and Article 5, because in the reports back from those informals, it was pointed out that more time was needed to consider them. Sorry, and I have a further announcement to make.
Yes.
Yeah, we should. What we are working on, and please be aware that we will be announcing this, we are working on the possibility of having informals on Article 5 in the afternoon slot, possibly beginning at 2:30 p.m. We are working to have them in room 19 so that we can easily go from the informals on Article 5, that would take around 2 hours, and quickly transition to a session of the contact group. Why? Because we need to reconvene the contact group to receive the report from the informals on Article 3 that happened to finish the consideration of the whole article last night, but this still needs to be reported back to the contact group, and also to receive the report back from informals on Article 5, and to decide on next steps on the work we need to undertake in that contact group. Thank you very much.
and I thank you very much also Ambassador Ikea and Mr. Bogman. And now I invite the co-chairs of Contact Group 2 to provide a short report on the progress of their work. So, Ms. Toika and Mr. Derry, you have the floor from the seat of Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Together with my fellow co-chair, Mr. Peter Derry, I'm pleased to give this brief update on the outcomes of the work on the Contact Group 2. The group had a mandate to consider the following 4 articles. Article 7, releases and leakages. Article 8, plastic waste management. Article 9, existing plastic pollution. Article 10, just transition. Please let me start by thanking Peter as well as the Secretariat team who supported us. It has been a pleasure to work with Peter and the team. Most importantly, I want sincerely to thank all the delegations who participated constructively in our contact group. We had positive and productive discussions. We also made some important progress. In Contact Group 2, members were able to complete a first round of textual negotiations on all 4 articles in our mandate. The group met 5 times over the course of the week. It also held 1 informal consultation on Article 8, together with a separate informal consultations on Articles 7, 9, and 10. Peter and I are very grateful to Chile and Switzerland for their facilitation of the informal consultations on Article 8. We are also very grateful to the UK and Panama for leading informal consultations on Article 7, for the EU and Antigua-Barbuda on behalf of the IOCs for leading informal consultations on Article 9, and Cameroon for leading informal consultations on Article 10. The status of the textual negotiations on each of the 4 articles as at 6:22 p.m. yesterday, it is as presented in the assembled text that has been posted to the INC website. Members will note that the group decided to include a footnote reference in Article 7 to provide clarity as to the status of the discussion at that moment. While the text has grown bigger, it reflects the views of the members. We feel it serves as a strong basis on which the members can continue the negotiations in the 2nd week of our meeting. Please let me now hand it to my co-chair Peter to share his reflections.
Thank you very much, Julia. It's been great working with you. Let me first also join you to echo thanks to members who participated so diligently in our contact group. I agree with Julia that we had healthy, constructive, and productive exchanges during our discussions. And delegates, we now have what you may describe as a Christmas tree instead of the clean, agreed text we aim to achieve here in Geneva. But this is the process of multilateralism, and this is what progress looks like. As co-chairs, we are happy to report that we were able to ensure that members' views are now genuinely reflected in the text, and that some paragraphs we have found areas of convergence. Mr. Chair, while we have sent to you a snapshot of the work of our contact group as of yesterday afternoon, I am pleased to report that delegations have kept working. Our contact group has established 3 further informal consultations on Article 7, 8, and 9. The informal consultations on Article 8 was held last night, and today there are 2 further informal consultations to be held on Article 7 and 9, scheduled for this afternoon and evening. Mr. Chair, The work of our contact group shows the willingness of members to find consensus and to find that clean text on the articles we are all working towards. I would conclude by saying once again, thanks to the Secretariat team that has supported the contact group and members of the contact group for the progress made so far. I thank you.
And I thank you very much, Ms. Stoika and Mr. Derry. I now invite the co-chairs of Contact Group 3 to provide this short report on the progress of their work. So Ms. Lynch and Ms. Cisior, you have the floor from the seat of Australia.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, colleagues. Contact Group 3 met 4 times so far during this session: on Tuesday, the 5th of August, from 7 to 10, from Wednesday, the 6th of August, from 3 to 6:30 p.m, Thursday from 10:30 to 1 and 7 to 9, and Friday from 2 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. We discussed both Articles 11 and 12. On Article 12, the contact group, on Article 11, the contact group discussed the financial mechanism under Article 11. Early sessions focused on hearing views from members and reviewing proposals submitted at INC 5.1 and 5.2. The contact group mandated the co-chairs to prepare a comparison table mapping how elements of the article were reflected in a selection of proposals. The information table included in the chair's text, as well as multi-country submissions. Following additional exchanges, and with the aim to simplify the text where possible to facilitate structured textual negotiations, co-chairs were mandated to then prepare a revised iteration of text for Article 11, drawing from the chair's text from the 1st of December 2024, along with proposals and views expressed during INC 5.1 and INC 5.2, and informal consultations held on Article 11 on the 7th of August. The document aimed to reorder and simplify text where possible to facilitate structured textual negotiations. This document was welcomed by members as useful, though not exhaustive, starting point for further textual negotiations. The contact group agreed to use the text prepared by co-chairs for Article 11 as a constructive basis for further negotiations, and this is the text reflected in the assembled document. For Article 12, as the structure of this article was generally supported, the contact group agreed with the co-chair's suggestion to begin line-by-line negotiations using the chair's text as the starting point. Following the initial exchanges on paragraph 1, the group requested the co-chairs to prepare a revised version of the text for paragraphs 2 to 7 that integrated in advance the written submissions uploaded to the portal during INC 5.2. The purpose of this was to accelerate the pace of textual negotiations, as delegations would not need to take the floor to repeat proposals already reflected in the draft. The contact group proceeded with paragraph-by-paragraph discussions on the co-chair's version. A first round of textual negotiations has been conducted for paragraphs 1 to 4. Co-chairs note that during this discussion, a number of suggestions were made to restructure paragraphs and simplify text, and that this work is yet to be completed by the contact group. Paragraphs 5 to 7 remain pending for further discussion. The different status of paragraphs in this article is reflected in the assembled document. I'll now hand to my co-chair to complete our report.
Thank you, Kate. So in regards to informals or informals as well as further work, we established an informal that took place on Thursday, the 7th of August, and we would like to thank Austria and Costa Rica for facilitating this informal. It was open to members and with a mandate to discuss areas of convergence and divergence in Article 11 with a view to facilitating future negotiations. The outcome of this informal produced a non-negotiated summary table capturing elements of convergence and divergences across the different proposals. This was used to inform the co-chair's revised text that has now been accepted by the contact group as the basis of further work for Article 11. An informal discussion will take place over lunchtime today, led by Brazil, to further discuss their proposal for Article 12, Paragraph 5, on a cooperation mechanism. In terms of requiring further work and possible venues and options to achieve agreement for Article 11, members have expressed readiness to begin textual negotiations using the co-chair's proposed text, which consolidates views from INC 5.1 and 5.2. Members acknowledge that some matters, including design and structure of the financial mechanism and related matters such as its operation and governance, will benefit from discussions in an informal setting. For Article 12, paragraphs 5 to 7 require a first reading in the contact group and would need to be further discussed in the context of continued negotiations on the full article. The next stage will involve refining the text for all paragraphs in this article, addressing outstanding divergences and encouraging flexibility from members to facilitate convergence. My co-chair and I would like to express our deepest appreciation to the members of the contact group for the very collaborative and constructive spirit that they have brought to these discussions. We thank you, Chair.
I thank you very much, Ms. Lynch and Ms. Ciccio. And now I invite the co-chairs of the Contact Group 4 to provide a short report on the progress of their work. Mr. Christian and Mr. Kobayashi, you have the floor from the seat of Antigua and Barbuda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the outset, allow me to thank all members for their constructive engagement in Contact Group 4, providing valuable inputs during our intensive discussions. Since the opening plenary on 5th of August, my co-chair and I convened 6 meetings of Contact Group 4 over 4 days, amounting to 14 hours of substantive discussions. Contact Group 4 was mandated to consider the preamble and the following 23 articles from the chair's text: Article 1, 1 bis, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20 bis, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Despite the extensive scope of our mandate, I'm pleased to report that all articles assigned to the group received initial discussion thanks to the collaborative spirit of members. Due to time constraints, however, some members were unable to intervene on certain articles. As such, some articles still have outstanding initial interventions which we intend to address at the next opportunity that we meet in a contact group setting. These are Articles 14 through 18 and the preamble. To that end, we would like to reiterate that the outcomes as reflected in the assembled text are a snapshot for each article from different points in time. It is not an agreed outcome of our work from the first week. I would also like to note, Mr. Chair, that while the document aims to reflect all of our deliberations over the last 4 days, it may not comprehensively capture the full range of views expressed in the room and those that have been uploaded on the in-session document platform after the Secretariat started compiling the assembled text last night. In addition, specific proposals shared via the in-session portal but not deliberated on in the contact group setting are generally not reflected in the current text, such as the case of Article 20, as indicated in its footnote. We do, however, would like to flag the following omissions in the status of work document submitted last night, which should have been reflected to the assembled text. Article 1 bis and Article 19, for which the text should be in square brackets and include the no article options. Article 14, paragraph 1, for which textual proposals that had been omitted have been introduced. We are in the process of releasing an updated version of the status of work document. I am pleased to note that Contact Group 4 has successfully forwarded Articles 31 and 32 to plenary for consideration and potential referral to the legal drafting group, a clear testament to the group's efficiency, focus, and commitment to progress. During this week, my co-chair and I invited members to deliberate on the following matters in an informal setting with a view to bridging the divergences that would enable us to move closer to clean final text. 4 textual options on principles or principles and approaches facilitated by the distinguished delegate from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Provisions relating to the Conference of the Parties and subsidiary bodies co-facilitated by the distinguished delegates from the European Union, Palau, and Peru. Matters relating to health facilitated by the distinguished delegate from Brazil. The outcomes of these deliberations from these informal meetings have been duly reported back to Contact Group 4 and incorporated in the respective status of work documents for our group and subsequently in the assembled text for consideration at this plenary. I will now hand over to my co-chair Lynn Roy for further reports.
Thank you very much, Go, and thank you, Chair, for this opportunity to present on behalf of Contact Group 4. As it relates to areas of convergence, during the first meeting of the Contact Group 4, held on the first day of INC-5.2, members found convergence on the following 2 articles to the plenary for its forwarding the following 2 articles to the plenary for its consideration. Article 31 on depository and Article 32 on authentic text. The status of work document reflected this was posted on the in-session documents portal on 5th August under Contact Group 4. There are several articles that showed some level of convergence but still need further refinement in the Contact Group. We have made good progress during this week on a number of articles and have seen increasing convergence on provisions relating to national plans, reporting provisions, effectiveness evaluation, public awareness and education, the final provisions, such as those related to amendment procedures and entry into force. These matters would benefit from further refinement within Contact Group 4, and we look forward to continuing our discussions in this regard. There are, however, elements that require further work, and possible avenues and options to achieve them are being proposed. During our deliberation, new articles have been proposed to introduce concepts that are not included in the Chair's text of 1 December 2024. We therefore seek your guidance, Mr. Chair, and way forward on the newly proposed articles. We also began identifying cross-cutting elements that may warrant further consideration across articles. For instance, the nature of decision-making, and particularly whether to make decisions by consensus only or including the possibility of voting when all efforts at consensus have been exhausted. The number and characteristics of any subsidiary bodies that may be established, and the issue of trade under an internationally legally binding instrument. We have also compiled proposed next steps, and as an immediate next step, we would like to have an opportunity to invite members who have remained in our speakers list for Articles 13 through 18 and the preamble to offer their interventions in the Contact Group setting. Following this, we would like to utilize a variety of modalities to expedite our work. For example, textual negotiations by members in an informal setting, co-chair's development of streamlined text with a view to bridging the divergences, joint considerations with other contact groups if necessary, and lastly, some of the cross-cutting items I've stated earlier warrant further consideration. Further details on contact group sessions and informals will be provided on the app. In closing, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to you, Mr. Chair, for the trust you place in my co-chair and I to lead this important work. I also wish to thank all members once again for their constructive engagement, collegiality, and commitment throughout the week. It has been a privilege to serve in this capacity, along with my distinguished co-chair, and thank you, Go, for your support and leadership during this period. To our informal group facilitators, we wish to thank you for your efforts, and I also wish to thank our Secretariat team for their tireless efforts and support. My co-chair and I look forward to a continued collaboration as we move ahead. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christian and Mr. Kobayashi. And now, distinguished delegates, as we see, a lot of effort was made this week by everyone in this room to ensure that our work enjoys collective ownership. The chair's text, the draft text, and the structure approach to negotiations have provided us with the essential tools to move steadily forward. However, the progress made has not been sufficient. We have had 2.5 years of opportunities for delegations to make proposals and have been captured in multiple iterations of compiled texts. We have also had ample opportunities for delegations to express their view in different settings. What I see in the snapshot of work from the contact groups this week, it is a lot of new brackets still showing many unresolved issues. There is no more time to continue adding positions already stated. Today, we have arrived to a critical stage where a real push to achieve our common goal is needed. May I remind you that August 14 is not just a deadline for our work. It is a date by which we must deliver. Looking ahead of the second week of INC 5.2, following consultations and after receiving detailed report from the contact group's co-chairs, I have decided to propose to the committee the continuations of its work as follows. Firstly, as recommended by Contact Group 4, I would like to invite the committee to transmit Articles 31 and 32 to the legal drafting group, with the understanding that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed here in plenary. Secondly, I note that several articles have a significant level of understanding, but they still require further refinement within the respective contact groups before they can be forwarded to the legal drafting group. In this regard, the contact groups will continue reviewing such an articles, aiming to produce final texts for the legal drafting group. To enable this, the contact groups, with their entrusted co-chairs, will need to work in a more effective manner that helps to swiftly achieve convergence on the articles under review, given, once again, the limited time until August 14. The co-chairs are at the committee's disposal to help advance the work of the contact groups. I urge delegations to make better use of their facilitation role. Placing our full confidence in the co-chairs at this juncture is imperative for getting the alignment we need to deliver on this historic task. Time management in the meetings is absolutely essential as we get closer to the end game. To make this possible, I urge delegations to cooperate with the co-chairs, both in enforcement of time limits as well as in avoiding making statements of similar nature. Moving forward, the co-chair's task is to facilitate finalization of the texts, for which I expect delegations to offer them their full support and focus on resolving differences and cleaning up the text. Finally, I note that some articles still have unresolved issues and show little progress toward reaching a common understanding. I will continue consultations on work with the contact group's co-chair to identify these articles. At any point, when broad alignment is reached on additional articles, I will organize a plenary meeting to transmit those articles to the legal drafting group. Having said that, I hope this is agreeable to everyone. I would like to give the floor to Kuwait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to make sure, is it now in the agenda that the time for statements?
Thank you very much, Kuwait. More than the statements, if you need any clarification of information additionally of what it has been said, yes, it is the time.
So, actually, we don't have clarification or questions, Mr. Chair. We just wanted to be among those who speak and deliver the statement first, just to prevent the reoccurrence of what we faced during the contact group when we ask for the mic and we get the mic at the end of the sessions. So again, we have a statement to deliver, just a stock take on what has happened. If you allow us, we read our statement or wait until the time for the statement, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Kuwait. I understand from what you're saying that the statement will be on the stock take. Of course, if it's related to the stock take, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Kuwait would like to deliver this statement on behalf of the like-minded group. And we begin sincerely thanking the government and people of Switzerland for their warm hospitality and excellent arrangement for this session. We also thank you, Mr. Chair, for your leadership and for steering us through this complex, challenging, and difficult process. So, Mr. Chair, since INC-1, the like-minded group of countries has engaged in good faith, constructively, and have been consistent with a clear objective to deliver a treaty that is sustainable, practical, and implementable. We've made every effort to seek solutions that addresses plastic pollution, while safeguarding the legitimate interest and development priorities of all countries. Mr. Chair, the reality is hard to ignore. Time has moved quickly, and with only 6 days remaining, we're still searching for the zone of possible agreement we've been calling for since the very first sessions. We're also deeply concerned that after 5 days of negotiation and halfway through the INC-5.2, the scope has not been given an equal and fair chance for discussion, not even in informal sessions, while other articles that have been the main source of delays continue to receive repeated opportunities for debate, despite the lack of evidence for relevance of these articles to the mandate. This imbalance has contributed to the lack of productivity and efficiency we're experiencing. We're concerned that our views have been omitted in many articles and are not adequately reflected in the assembled text. Mr. Chair, we have historical opportunity to bridge the current divergence across all articles through a concise scope that defines what the treaty covers. Mr. Chair, this is an important treaty with a level of complexity and impact that reaches across multiple sectors and touches directly on human development and prosperity. In shaping it, we cannot afford to ignore science or trade it off for unrealistic and overly restrictive measures, nor can we accept the export of regulatory approaches that may not work for all countries, especially for developing countries, whose circumstances, priorities, and capacities differ, and particularly when some of these approaches have shown limited success, even in the context where they were first applied. We must be realistic. The only viable path forward is to focus on what unites us today. Let us agree on what we can agree, rather than forcing through divisions that could undermine both the legitimacy and durability of this treaty. Mr. Chair, consensus must be the foundation of this treaty. Chair, consensus must be the basis of all our decisions, including amendments in the instrument and its annexures. And let us be very clear, there can be no successful treaty without the half of the world's population. Any attempt to move forward without consensus risks producing an instrument that is neither legitimate nor implementable. The world is watching, and so is the next generation. Our own children who have been taught that inclusion means respecting all views and perspectives, silencing any voices, especially in agreement of this magnitude, would betray these very principles. We must therefore reaffirm that this treaty can only be built on consensus. There is no place for measures in an instrument of such universal ambition and impact. Mr. Chair, continuing at the current pace without a change in approach will not produce a different or more agreeable result. If we want to succeed, we must adjust our course immediately. In conclusion, the like-minded group of countries stands firm. We're ready to continue working constructively and engage in discussion with all parties to find convergence anchored in consensus, to achieve a balanced, fair, and truly global outcome that all parties can commit to in both principle and practice. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you, Kuwait. And I would like to ask also delegations, please, to make your statements short and focus in what we are discussing, that is the stock take that we have received from the contact groups. It will be good to hear from you, yes, but I can see that the list is growing and we don't have too much time. Also, and as I mentioned before, it will be good that this morning we move from plenary, or this afternoon now, from the plenary session to the contact groups. So, is a point of order from Fiji? Fiji, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving Fiji the floor. We just would like to seek clarity in terms of the way in which the remaining statements would be structured. We are mindful that some contact groups have indicated that we want to start at 2 p.m. And we also respect that every committee member has the right to opinion and a right to reflect on the process so far, and also reflect on your program of work that you have just delivered. However, may I please request you, Chair, and the Secretariat to consider that if statements are delivered, it's only by our groupings, as in the interest of time, we do want to move forward with work. We would really ask that our groupings that represent our voices be given the first chance to make these statements. If anything that is not addressed by our groupings, then only can member committees or committee members come in to make any additional points. In the interest of time, again, Chair, I ask you to please consider this proposal. As time is not on our side, we do want to get the work moving, and I seek your urgency in this request.
Muchísimas gracias, Fiji.
Thank you very much, Fiji. As was noted, yes, of course, time is of the essence. We have very little time, even to continue in prolonged meetings and with general statements. I had asked that statements being made here on this item be focused statements, focused on what is being discussed. That is, the reports that we have received from the facilitators of the contact groups. In this respect, I would ask delegations to please focus and have short statements, given the limited time that we have. Keep to a brief time frame and focus on the discussion we are having here, and that is to say, dealing with the reports of the contact groups. I should also like to note that general statements can be sent, as was agreed in the earlier plenary from Tuesday. You can send these in writing to the Secretariat, and these will be included on the webpage and in the final report. Thank you very much.
Seguimos con la lista.
We will now continue with our list.
I didn't see Brazil. A point of order from Brazil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, or I don't know, afternoon, everybody. Just to, I understand, I think I understand where the Fiji delegation comes from, but I would like to clarify that my regional group, as far as I know, has not negotiated any or has not drafted any regional statements. So I don't understand where only regional groups would be able to deliver an intervention. What I would like to secure, if possible, Mr. Chair, and I totally agree with you, we're just having a stock-taking plenary and we're just reacting to the reports by the co-chairs of contact groups, but just to safeguard the rights of delegations, individual delegations, if they need to intervene on this very specific topic that you just mentioned as the topic we're discussing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Brazil. Again, you know, as I mentioned before, I would like delegations to focus on the reports, on your statements, on the reports from the contact groups. But thank you. I will come back to the list of speakers. Now I have Kenya, followed by Cuba. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I thank the co-chairs of the contact groups for the updates on the state of play of the negotiations. We appreciate your commitment to the process. The last 1 week has seen countries engage in very honest exchange of views. Positions are clear and below the spirit of positivity that is self-evident. However, we are not closer to getting an agreement. We are still very far. Plastic pollution is not waiting. It is getting out of control with 7 billion tons of plastic waste circulating in the environment and 430 million of plastic products produced each year without proper take-back schemes in many of our countries. The treaty we are negotiating is an environment treaty to end plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. Effective implementation of this treaty is expected to have positive cascading effects on ecosystem restoration, biodiversity, conservation, and reduction of threats and risks to human health. We take note that some progress has been made on some articles. We must, at the bare minimum, agree on the essential elements that will constitute an all-inclusive, ambitious, effective, and implementable treaty. Kenya submitted some inputs on Article 21. However, we note with concern that our inputs on the Secretariat have been captured in the assembled texts dated 8th, have not been captured in the assembled text dated 8th of August 2025. We request the Chair to reintroduce the inputs already uploaded for further iteration. The global environment governance is highly fragmented with system-wide policy inconsistencies, duplications, and heavy operational costs with minimal impact on the ground. This process presents the world with an opportunity to rectify this anomaly by locating the Secretariat of the treaty at the UNEP headquarters to strengthen the headquarter functions as already agreed at paragraph 88K of the Future We Want outcome document of the Rio +20 conference. Further, this request by the Africa Group aligns with the UN at 80 initiative, which seeks to bring services closer to the people, streamline operations, realign mandates, and address financial challenges to make the UN fit for purpose. Kenya has and will remain constructive in these negotiations. Let us all seize the moment and get a treaty here to help the world manage plastic pollution. I thank you, Chair.
And I thank you, Kenya. Once again, I will ask delegations to give the statements in no more than 3 minutes. Please make it short because we still have some delegations asking for the floor. Now I have Cuba, followed by Colombia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will present my statement and my words in Spanish, but I will to read it slower in order to facilitate the translator. Distinguido Presidente.
Distinguished Chair, we are on day 5 on this INC 5.2 after intense days with more than 12 hours of work and very little rest. We thank you for the information provided by yourself and the co-chairs, and we appreciate the efforts made. We agree on sending Articles 31 and 32 to the drafting group as proposed. As regards the way we will work, we reiterate once again that what is most important in the coming days is to ensure transparency and inclusivity of all in the negotiations. That will be the only way to maintain trust in the process and for all of us to participate constructively. All of the meetings convened as part of the negotiations led by yourself or the co-chairs, regardless of the format, all of these should be notified in time so that all delegations can understand what will occur and the manner in which this will take place. Likewise, we need to focus on the room sizes so that no country is left outside of a room for negotiations owing to a lack of space. This occurred with Cuba on the informals on Article 5 yesterday. Today, we have an assembled text that better reflects the positions of all countries. However, there remain gaps, and there is still a great challenge before us. As regards the contact group 1, we need to, in the coming days, give priority to those articles that have not been discussed, for example, on definitions, the article on definitions. The new article defended by various delegations on scope, that is not yet mentioned in the assembled text. It's omitted, and we believe, therefore, that it is not fair at this final phase where we're supposed to continue to work on a text that reflects all of the views equitably. As regards scope, we have a similar situation, an article on production as well. There are divided positions between option 0 or having a text. But there is an article within the text you presented in December, and so we wonder, at this stage in the process, why can't we have an article on scope? Thank you very much, Cuba, says the chair. If you can please wrap up, please.
Final.
Yes, my last point, sir. We reiterate there is an urgent need for political will for means of implementation. We cannot take on obligations in terms of control if we also don't address commitments in financing and transfers of technology. We trust that we will be able to work and bring our positions closer together and reach convergence here on this beautiful setting by Lake Lemon. Thank you. Thank you, Cuba. I will now give the floor to Colombia, followed by the EU. Colombia, please. Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished delegates, Chair, we wish to speak on the work of we wish to thank the co-facilitators and the chairs for the efforts made and the leadership in this complex approach. We welcome the constructive spirit that most countries have shown here. However, we must be clear. We are not making enough progress. We are at a decisive phase in this INC, and rather than act constructively to reach agreements, to reflect our views, instead, we are reopening and renegotiating aspects that are at the heart of the very of what was already agreed by consensus, putting an end to plastic pollution and addressing the whole life cycle. There are so many, more than 300 brackets in this text, and now there are more than 1,000 brackets, in fact. So what is the message that we are giving to the world about this process, and what can we expect if we continue in this way? We only have a few days left to end our work, conclude. This is not owing to a lack of faith. Discussions, we shouldn't go back to prior positions. And it should be easier to reach convergence. Colombia has come to identify areas of convergence and to work constructively with all delegations towards a robust treaty on which future generations can continue to build on. And for us, the essential items is a balanced package that is to address unsustainable and unmanageable levels of current plastic levels. Let's be clear, this is incompatible with the goal of addressing plastic pollution. We need to eliminate chemicals of concern, eliminate problematic plastic products. We need to guarantee a just transition, ensure adequate, additional, and timely implementation means and transfer of technology on favorable terms, ensure that the COP can go to vote if consensus is not reached. This is a challenge that can be tackled. It can't be tackled piece by piece. It must be addressed in a balanced, overall way. And we must change our work dynamic here. We would propose working in a more flexible and cooperative manner, to work informally through Monday, alternating with contact groups, and to reconvene on Tuesday in the morning in plenary in order to tackle these work modalities. If progress has not been made by then, we must reevaluate our organization and procedures. Sir, we have a historic responsibility towards countries and future generations here. The future of multilateralism in environmental terms is in our hands. We cannot allow any agreement to take shape. The time is now for us to address this. Thank you, says the chair.
The European Union, followed by Grenada. European Union, please. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the EU and its 27 member states, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to you, Chair, as well as the Bureau and the Secretariat, for the hard work going into the preparation for these negotiations. We would also like to thank all countries that took a leading role in informals and informal informals, which have given a much-needed push to work. The EU and its member states stand together, committed to finalizing an agreement to end plastic pollution through a legally binding instrument that would effectively protect our health and the environment. That is first and foremost why we are all here. The pollution crisis is increasing by the day. Our citizens expect us to deliver. Reflecting on this first week, we are concerned that the negotiations are not advancing with the urgency required to achieve our objectives, and the clock is ticking. To make the most efficient use of the limited time remaining, we believe it is essential to strengthen facilitation of the ongoing discussions in the contact groups, including by making use of other formats where appropriate. For instance, through informal consultation. Such approaches will be crucial to ensuring meaningful progress in the negotiations. In addition, this is an appeal to all parties to be constructive and to not use working methods and procedural excuses to delay the work and obstruct the process and then claim we have no time left sorry. Whatever the working methods, we all have a choice to use them in the most productive way. There are procedures and rules that matter, but people matter too. We have a mandate to fulfill and a promise to keep. Let us all together gear up and make this work. Therefore, we stress the need for parties to trust the co-chairs and respect the clear mandate that was given to them. We must focus on streamlining and refining the text we need for an effective treaty. Chair, with regard to your proposal on the way forward, we thank you for presenting the plan. We can support it in general, but we would like to suggest some improvements. First, it is key that you actively engage and undertake other activities, such as informal consultations with delegation. Active shuttle diplomacy is necessary in any negotiating process. In that process, it is essential to ensure transparency and that the chair inform all delegations equally. As time is running out, we hope that the new working methods will increase the speed of our work. However, if not, we invite you to be very vigilant and intervene timely and creatively when a shift is needed in terms of our working arrangements. We believe you are in the best position to keep track of the overall progress and developments in each work stream to judge when a new stock-taking and action is needed. As regard to our contact groups, we reiterate our support and trust in the co-chairs and encourage them to make greater use of informals, informals, and breakout groups. We appeal for efficient meeting management. It is in our overall interest that meetings don't draw out endlessly, which will deteriorate the quality of the treaty. We also support the possibility to convene more than 2 groups running in parallel. Again, this treaty is urgently needed to fulfill the demands of citizens all over the world who are concerned about their health and their children, to transition to a circular and competitive economy, because that is where the world is moving, and to show that in these difficult times.
I thank you very much, the EU. Thank you. Now I give the floor to Grenada, followed by Chile. And dear colleagues, I would like to close the list of speakers. I'd like to close the list of speakers because we do have some delegations asking for the floor, a number. So now I give the floor to Grenada, followed by Chile.
Thank you, Chair. Committee members, Grenada is encouraged by the progress. However, like many, we are still concerned at the pace. At this stage, having been delivered the assembled text reflecting the work thus far and the reports from the contact groups, it is essential that we all agree to a way forward and a mode of work that delivers results. Committee members, we are out of time. We have invested significant effort since INC-1. It is important that we utilize these last few days to progress, find compromise, refine text, advance convergences to the legal drafting group, resolve divergences with creative approaches, and avoid further bloating of the text. Chair, it is therefore important that we can be guided by your leadership in establishing a process that isn't confusing and which allows us to move forward confidently. It is our understanding that some groups have already started to productively and progressively advance textual negotiations, and thus we would like you to consider, where applicable, to allow contact groups to reconvene right away to advance this work. We agree with your approach to moving forward. However, consideration should be given to transparency and representation. We understand that there will be a diversity of approaches to advancing the work: informals, small groups, informals, perhaps head of delegation meetings, and reconvening of contact groups. However, it should be noted that those of us with very small delegations, while we remain flexible and understand the task ahead, will have immense difficulty ensuring that we have adequate representation. Thus, we ask that careful consideration is given to the approach to the integration of outputs from informal and small group settings into the formal work of the contact group. It is important that trust is maintained at this stage and that all committee members can be represented. As many others have shared, this treaty is particularly important for many countries, including developing countries. in particular LDCs and SIDS. As a small island developing state, we cannot accept a treaty that does not effectively consider our special circumstances. Finally, committee members, it is important that at this stage in negotiations, we focus on specific text needed and which is essential to developing the core elements for an effective treaty. We envision that this treaty, which will be the foundation and basis to progress our collective ability to end global plastic pollution, must evolve with time. Grenada looks forward to continuing to engage in this very important process and stand ready to work with all members of the committee to fulfill the demands of the hard work ahead and close an effective instrument. And in ending, we acknowledge the efficient work of the co-chairs, the co-facilitators, the Bureau, and the Secretariat and the Chair's team. This work isn't easy, and we commend you for your good guidance, hard work, and diligence. I thank you.
And I thank you, Grenada. Thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to Chile, followed by Palau. Chile tiene la palabra.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Chair.
For the co-chairs for the report. And I would like to make a brief statement about the way that our business is being conducted. We believe that it is very important to move on from the mode of work that we have had so far. We welcome the idea of finishing the work of the contact groups as they have some pending issues, but at the same time it's important to recognize that the assembled text shows clearly the amount of work that the level of progress that we can achieve in that mode of work, and we need to make progress into something much more efficient, and probably a number of elements have been mentioned by previous speakers. I'm very happy to speak after Grenada that mentioned some of the options that we have here with full inclusivity as well. But we need to move forward, and we need to move forward from the contact groups. And I would like to request your clarity about how we're going to do exactly that. Also, we'd like to have clarity on what we're going to do tomorrow, Sunday. It's a close, there's no official meetings as far as we understand, but it's a day that we need to have to make progress. I would like to also mention that Chile, although Chile, we stand for an ambitious outcome that delivers to end plastic pollution, covering the full life cycle of plastic with strong Article 3 to phase out problematic plastic products and additives, as well as strong financial provisions for developing countries. Those are very fundamental pillars in our understanding. Our position is being very clear. We sent in written form our position at the beginning of this session, but at the same time we would like to appeal to you to try to give us clear instructions about how to avoid general statement, because there is no time now for a general statement. It is your privilege under Rule 20 to give exact indications of the limitations of the time that the general statement can be done. I see that there is a clock in the screen, which is we welcome, but at the same time I think it's very important that delegations know in advance what time will be allocated so we can limit the time of our interventions. So I would suggest that you do that for the next plenary, so we have our work in a more efficient manner. Thank you.
I thank you, Chile. Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Palau, followed by Tuvalu. Palau, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, Excellencies, colleagues, I have the honor to deliver on behalf of the 39 small island developing states. And in the interest of time, we will upload our full statement. We thank the co-chairs for their efforts, but progress remains far too slow. We came here to conclude this process to deliver an effective and equitable agreement that meets the mandate established 3 years ago, and our people expect no less, an agreement that ends plastic pollution, protects our marine environment, and transforms how we produce and consume plastics so the problem doesn't worsen. Yet we've been caught in a web of informals upon informals, uncounted, uncontrolled, and as my colleague from Grenada mentioned, stretching our small delegations to the breaking point. Inconsistent modalities, untimely communication, and procedural irregularities have also hampered our work and led to inaccuracies in the assembled text. Plastic pollution cuts to the heart of SIDS vulnerabilities, and we can only accept a treaty in which we see ourselves, one that offers an equitable pathway for SIDS to address this crisis and fully recognizes our special circumstances. Our priorities are clear. First, addressing existing plastic pollution in the marine environment. We can prevent it, we can reduce it, but we must also remove what's already choking our oceans. This requires agreed obligations within and beyond national jurisdiction, cooperation mechanisms, and financing to make cleanup a reality. Second, finance and capacity building. SID's special circumstances must be operationalized, not just in a preamble, but through equitable and effective access to funds and means of implementation. We can only accept a treaty that provides new and additional funding and guarantees particular access for SIDs and LDCs. As we enter the final stretch, SIDS will not stand by while our future is bartered away in a stalemate of you first, no you first. This brinkmanship, pitting finance against obligations, has a real price: a dying ocean, collapsing biodiversity, and an ever-growing burden on those least responsible. We trust your stewardship, Mr. Chair, and we hope our trust is matched with transparency, open communication, and SID's presence in all convenings. We have 4 days to deliver an equitable, inclusive, and effective agreement. Our ocean, our people, and our planet cannot wait. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I thank you, Palau. Now I give the floor to Tuvalu, followed by the Cook Islands. Tuvalu, please.
Thank you, Chair. It is an honor to speak on behalf of the 14 Pacific Small Island Developing States. We are grateful, and we align ourselves with the statement delivered by Palau on behalf of AOSIS. We are grateful for the efforts you have made to deliver a comprehensive plastic treaty at the end of next week. As large oceanic states with small, remote, and dispersed communities, the Pacific Island countries want an agreement that is workable and covers the full life cycle of plastics, as identified in UNEP Resolution 5.2. We seek your assurance that the treaty we develop will be consistent with that mandate. We do not want a half-hearted treaty that is primarily based on national measures. Plastic pollution is a global problem, and we need a collaborative global approach to addressing the problem. It is now time to double our efforts and negotiate in good faith to ensure we develop a treaty that delivers what is expected under the resolution. Chair, we believe it is time for you to mandate the co-chairs of the contact groups to clean up the text. This does not mean removing any substantive elements of this assembled text. It simply means streamlining what we have in front of us. We believe that in providing clear, transparent, consistent terms of reference to the informals consultation, as well as informals, not limiting the number of committee members who can participate in these sessions, will enable progress towards delivery of a comprehensive plastic treaty at the end of the week. We have little time to go, and we must be ready to reach an ambitious treaty by the end of this coming week. Chair, Pacific Small Island Developing States stands ready to work hard and support you in creating a comprehensive yet workable treaty based on the UNEP 5.2 resolution. I thank you.
And I thank you, Tuvalu. Now I give the floor to Cook Islands, followed by Malaysia.
Thank you, and kia ora, Chair. The Cook Islands aligns fully with the statement delivered by Palau on behalf of AOSIS and Tuvalu on behalf of PSIDS. We also stand firmly with the High Ambition Coalition and Friends to secure a meaningful and ambitious agreement. We fully appreciate the pressure of time, but let us be reminded that true progress moves at the pace of inclusion. With the release of the assembled text, the Cook Islands remains extremely concerned by its unchecked expansion. The draft reflects not progress, but duplication and contradiction, more about avoiding compromise than genuine negotiation. Brackets keep piling up, stubborn as plastic pollution itself. We echo PSIDS. The process must now shift to genuine streamlining. That requires a clear, transparent mandate from co-facilitators to clean up the text and, where necessary, present options to plenary. Proper process must be followed in a transparent and equitable way. No one should be left behind at this critical stage. We support the call for greater use of flexible formats with open participation to help break deadlocks and build convergence. We thank you, Chair, for the work program already provided on Contact Group 1, Articles 3 and 5, and request clarity on the way forward for Article 6. Chair, Pacific SIDS are large ocean nations with scattered communities and limited capacity. We contribute less than 1.3% of the global plastic pollution. Yet, we live with its daily impacts. The special circumstances and needs of SIDS must be fully operationalized through support mechanisms, implementation flexibility, and prioritized financing and capacity building. This must also include the recognition and integration of traditional knowledge, including that of indigenous peoples and local communities. Equally, the treaty must be guided by the best available science. Together, they are essential for shaping effective, inclusive, and lasting solutions. As early agreements on harmonized criteria for safety, sustainability, and key chemicals and products of concerns will be vital for the treaty's success. In this regard, finance is critical. A robust, predictable, and accessible financial mechanism must be central, not peripheral, to this treaty. For SIDS and other developing countries, timely and adequate support will determine our ability to meet obligations and sustain long-term implementation. Chair, we must be clear, this process cannot result in a narrow waste management treaty. The treaty must reflect the scale and urgency of the challenge before us, addressing the full life cycle of plastics, including chemicals of concerns, and not simply their disposal. We call on your steadfast leadership, Chair. Let's deliver the meaningful and ambitious treaty our people, our planet, and our ocean are expecting.
And I thank you very much, Cook Islands. Now I give the floor to Malaysia, followed by Saudi Arabia. Malaysia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Malaysia's delegation, as well as the other delegation, have been working hard for the past 5 days trying to find common landing zones. Despite that, major divergence in the core elements of the draft text still exists, particularly in the relation to the scope, preamble, principle, Article 3, 6, 11, 19, and many more. We strongly believe that this instrument can be concluded if we can find a common ground driven by national determination and capabilities. Malaysia stands firm with our position that this instrument must focus on tackling plastic pollution by establishing effective mechanisms to improve infrastructure, incentivize innovation, and drive circularity. After 5 days of negotiation, we are now presented with assembled text that still contains more than 500 or more square brackets. Having seen the assembled text, Malaysia raises our concern regarding the modalities of work of our contact group and informal session. Parties have spent hours debating on inclusion scope in the instrument, but we are disappointed to see that the option for scope is not even reflected in the assembled text. Malaysia takes the stand that the scope is fundamental and vital to serve as parameters of this instrument. We also wish to register our concern that, despite 5 days of negotiation, some articles in the contact group have yet to commence its textual negotiation. Timely progress is essential if we are to reach a balanced and workable outcome within the limited time available. This is a serious concern, and we urge the Chair to resolve the inconsistent modalities of work to ensure that Member States could continue to work constructively with the ambition of concluding this instrument here in Geneva. Let us concentrate on points of convergence and bring forth an outcome that is balanced, predictable, practicable, realistic, and implementable at both national and global levels, all driven by ambition to address plastic pollution. Thank you, Chair.
And I thank you, Malaysia. Now I give the floor to Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just at the outset, I'd like to express our heartfelt condolences to the distinguished delegation and people of the Republic of Ghana for their recent tragic loss. They are in our thoughts and have our sympathies. Mr. Chair, I speak on behalf of the Arab group, and we'd like to begin by expressing our appreciation to our esteemed co-chairs, co-facilitators, and the Secretariat, as well as, of course, our fellow committee members for their efforts and engagement over the past few days. We'd like to also thank the Swiss government and UNEP for their gracious and able hosting of the session. Mr. Chair, we know that there is still a lot of work ahead of us. This should be evident from the brackets in the assembled text of this morning. In this respect, we'd like to note that there are crucial elements that are missing from the assembled draft and other elements that don't have brackets despite clear divergences among members. Nevertheless, we remain hopeful that we can work with others to find areas of convergence that would hopefully unlock further progress. We look forward to continued engagement with our fellow delegates to ensure that all views are reflected and taken up during the discussions, as we believe that inclusivity helps facilitate trust and allows us to progress constructively. Mr. Chair, we welcome your efforts aiming to bridge divergent views among members. However, we need clarity and transparency on process, especially on how the text will come back to us as members of the committee. We believe there is a need to bring back all textual proposals to the contact groups to be accepted or rejected by the members of the committee before the text is added to our party-driven documents. We also ask for your support, Mr. Chair, as our understanding is that all informals must be announced by the co-chairs and agreed by parties or members in the contact groups. Informals, on the other hand, can be organized by parties, but we believe they need better organization to maintain transparency, inclusivity, and to ensure a party-driven process. Moreover, it would be important, in fact, the responsible thing to do, to begin considering very soon what portions of the text may not make it to the final outcome due to irreconcilable divergence. We also recognize that we are quite pressed for time, and we cannot do everything everywhere all at once in a text this important and this complex. So we need to reflect on the way forward on the areas where the divergences are too vast for us to be able to bridge before the end of this meeting. Mr. Chair, let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. And we are keen on coming to an outcome.
Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia. Now, I would like to give the floor. Now, I would like to. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Iran, followed by Peru. Iran, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, colleagues. At the outset, we wish to fully associate ourselves with this statement by Kuwait on behalf of LMC Group, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia. In our statement, first, we wish to discuss the assembled text and then on our assessment of the process. On the note dated 8 August by the Secretariat, which includes the assembled text, the note expresses that contact group considered articles within their respective mandates, including Article 2 to 6 and scope. This is while we neither substantially discussed nor achieved a text on scope and Article 4 on exemptions and Article 6 on supply. Accordingly, we wish to clarify that we maintain our position of having no such a standalone text regarding these two articles. Therefore, the text of Article 4 and 6 proposed in assembled document should not be considered as a basis for our negotiations. On the issue of human health referred to under the title of Framing of Objective under Article 1, we believe that all the three options proposed in an imbalanced manner are putting more emphasis on human health and protection of environment. And this is contrary to our main intention, keeping in mind that all the health-related issues should be covered and dealt with by WHO and not by the future instrument on plastic pollution. On the issue of scope, we are also deeply concerned that during the past 5 days of negotiations, scope has not been given an equal and fair chance for discussion, not even in formal sessions, while other articles continue to receive repeated opportunities for debate despite the lack of evidence for the relevance of those articles to our mandate. On Para 2 of the text proposed for Article 7 by CG2 and the footnote in the text, we wish to emphasize that this text is not an agreed text. However, as a compromise and to facilitate further work, we joined others to put forward this text to the INC chair. Therefore, it does not prejudice the right of any member to propose additions, deletions, and modifications in the next round of negotiations. So the brackets surrounding these and the entire paragraph indicate that some members do not wish to have any text for this paragraph and would instead prefer to merge the whole Article 7 and this paragraph into Article 5 and/or 8. So we expect that further consultations on this article will occur after the stocktake plenary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I thank you very much, Kuwait. Now I give the floor to Peru, followed by Uruguay. Peru, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, sir. We welcome the updates provided by the co-facilitators of the contact groups on the state of negotiations and for their diligent work throughout the week. We wish to convey the deep concern of my delegation, owing to the slow advances made on the ambitious, effective way to put an end to plastic pollution, addressing the entire life cycle of plastic in line with UNEP Resolution 5.14. This weekend will be decisive. We must focus on streamlining the text and seek convergence actively, avoiding the proliferation of multiple proposals that are similar on a same theme, or proposals that move away from pre-existing consensus in terms of the environment and multilateralism. That would only unnecessarily prolong the process. The articles are important as a whole, overall, but we believe we need to focus in particular on those that are essential towards a robust, coherent, balanced agreement, in particular to speed up the work on Articles 3, 5, 6, 11, and 20. We must address this with a sense of seriousness and urgency. Otherwise, we will run the risk of not concluding our work in time, and this risks a failure of our collective effort. Our goal is to achieve an agreement, a treaty that is substantive, equitable, inclusive, and effective. If we do not make significant progress between now and Monday, we believe we will need to convene by Monday night at the latest a plenary in order to have a new stock-taking exercise. And specifically, sir, we need to adopt crucial decisions on these steps to be followed. We trust that all delegations will commit themselves to participate constructively and avoid delaying tactics and will contribute towards reaching consensus. That is the only way that we can effectively address the enormous challenge of plastic pollution and prevent from this to continue to grow. And we must also meet our historical obligation towards present and future generations. Thank you. Thank you, says the chair. Uruguay now, please.
India.
Followed by India.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. My delegation wishes to thank you for your leadership. We thank the Secretariat for organizing this event and to the people and government of Switzerland for the warm welcome here at this meeting. I'd like to begin by conveying my thanks to the co-chairs, the co-facilitators, and the delegations who have spoken very productively also in the contact groups. I should note, however, that Uruguay, which has supported this process, we have been surprised to see that the chair's text, the initial text that we had at the beginning of this meeting, it has been augmented by a number of proposals made, often with a novel text, new text, and there were no precedents for this at prior meetings internationally, and this was not part of our negotiations to date, in fact. Accordingly, we need to tackle this process, identify the truly relevant matters to help us to reach an ambitious agreement. We welcome the proposal made by you, sir, to continue in our work, and we trust in your proposal and in your leadership. However, we believe that we need to give greater support to the co-facilitators of the contact groups, co-chairs, and to realize that their efforts require greater way to receive proposals and to reach a consensus text. They need more leeway. Sir, we must reaffirm as we conclude our full commitment to complying with the mandate of the UNEP resolution that brought us here today. We need to work with transparency and inclusivity. Consensus cannot be used as a justification to not achieve our objectives. We need a robust Article 3, a comprehensive Article 6, Article 11 and 12 that are effective. Article 20 needs to be truly operative for this agreement to be successful. And Article 19 must protect, in addition to the environment, human health as well. Thank you very much, sir.
Uruguay.
Thank you, Uruguay.
Floor to India. I would like to give the floor to India, followed by Switzerland.
Thank you, Chair. As we are nearing completion of first week of negotiations at INC 5.2, India would like to thank the people and government of Switzerland for being such gracious host, and the chair, co-chairs, co-facilitators, and secretariat for all the efforts made to facilitate negotiations. We align ourselves with the statement made by Kuwait on behalf of like-minded developing countries or like-minded countries. Chair, we are at a very important juncture in our negotiations. In order to move forward in a meaningful manner, we need to address issues with mutual understanding and trust in a fair, transparent, and inclusive manner by understanding circumstances and needs of all member states. While we come together, we would like to emphasize that the actions on preventing plastic pollutions are nationally driven as per the respective national circumstances. It is also important to recognize the historical contributions to the plastic pollution, and in this light, as well as the respective capabilities of the nations, we emphasize that implementation of the treaty will be contingent on finance and means of implementation provided by the developed countries. Chair, India has always been committed to the principle of consensus in decision-making in respect of multilateral environmental agreements, as this reiterates collective decision-making and reflects shared responsibilities and commitment. Our delegation would like to reiterate that all the decisions shall be taken by consensus and that Rule 38(1) shall not be invoked till the final adoption of rules of procedures by INC. This will ensure collective ownership of the instrument we develop. Chair, we also need to ensure that we focus on addressing plastic pollution only as mandated by UNEP 5/14 resolution. Since now time is short, and in order to move forward, we suggest the scope of the instrument should focus on addressing plastic pollution only without overlapping with the mandate of other multilateral environmental agreements and other relevant instruments and bodies, especially WTO and WHO. The instrument needs to have clearly defined scope. Separate article on supply or any measures to regulate the production of primary plastic polymers has larger implications in respect of the right to development of member states. Such approaches should be avoided. Similarly, inclusion of any global list with phase-out dates under the article on plastic products should be avoided. We also notice that there are overlaps among different articles of the draft text itself, which should be avoided. Taking into account that the instrument has to be implemented by member states in a nationally driven manner, due consideration to national circumstances and capabilities should be given. Provision of technical and financial assistance is an essence. Inclusion of an article on reservations on annexures as the shape and form of some articles can have trade implications that may be considered. While we acknowledge the work which is being carried out, Chair, we extend our full support to you and your team to achieve our common collective goal to address plastic pollution. Thank you, Chair.
And I thank you very much, India. Now I give the floor to Switzerland, followed by Azerbaijan. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank you, your team, the co-chairs, facilitators, and the Secretariat for the hard work in the last days. This delegation is committed to achieve a successful outcome at this meeting with an effective treaty that enables us to end plastic pollution through measures along the entire life cycle. We note that we are nearly halfway through the days available for finalizing the text. And yes, we are making progress in negotiating the text, and we appreciate the spirit of cooperation in the different rooms. We also note that the text is growing. And yes, this is part of multilateral negotiations, but in our view, it's also due because we have uncertainty about the outcome of some cross-cutting issues. And we propose that we look at ways of resolving those cross-cutting issues quickly so that we can move forward on critical items. And we have some suggestions how we might progress. First, we fully endorse the use of small and informal groups of progressing those issues. The second is that we need to be clear about the process after we approve the text next week for preparing the entry into force of the Convention and COP1. We believe that clarity about the process, including the continued role of INC and post-implementational work up to COP1, is crucial for our ability to resolve issues at this meeting. We welcome therefore your request to the Secretariat to provide for our consideration an outline of issues that will be addressed through the DIPCON resolutions. And finally, we note that one delegation made proposals to include in text details relating to the venue for COP1 and the seat of the Secretariat. When the text got proposed in the room, Switzerland did react, make an intervention in the room, and also sent in text on Articles 20 and 21. The text is currently not reflecting the assembled text, and we count on the co-facilitators to see our submissions reflecting the next version. And to provide clarity on this topic, we believe that Geneva provides the right environment for the Secretariat, and therefore Switzerland has expressed its interest in hosting Secretariat of the future Plastics Treaty. Geneva is a global hub for international governance on pollution, home to the BRS Conventions, the Minamata Convention, UNEP's Health and Chemicals Branch, and major organizations such as WHO, ILO, WTO, and UNCTAD. Geneva offers a unique multilateral ecosystem and a long tradition of hosting negotiations. However, we believe firmly that the location of the Secretariat should not be subject of negotiations this time. This is a decision for the COP1, and our task is to finalize the text negotiations and not adding new items to the table. Thank you very much.
And I thank you very much, Switzerland. Now is 1:40, and I have been informed by the Secretariat that we have interpretations until 2:30. So I request that your interventions could be even shorter if we could keep in less than 2 minutes, so we can hear, because I still have some requests for the floor, even though I have closed the list of speakers, but it will be good that we keep intervention short. Please, Azerbaijan, you have the floor, followed by Ethiopia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to be short. At the outset, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the co-chairs of contact groups and co-facilitators of informal groups and Secretariat for their tireless effort. Mr. Chair, we've almost left 5 critical days behind on our path toward finalizing a legally binding instrument on plastic pollution. Unfortunately, the progress made this period has been limited and does not reflect the level of eagerness and constructive spirit shown by the parties. The negotiations reveal both areas of convergences and divergences, though regrettably, divergences have dominated. Mr. Chair, we must ask ourselves, what kind of outcome are we striving to achieve from these negotiations? Should it be highly ambitious and heavily detailed, risking the loss of consensus, or an actionable framework that may set the beginning of a process that drives global efforts to combat plastic pollution? Our objective must be to develop a practical and implementable agreement to tackle plastic pollution, one that moves beyond idealistic ambitions and takes into account limited financial and technical resources, different national circumstances, development pathways, and socioeconomic disparities. Without accommodating these realities, any efforts on global agreement, even if agreed, risk becoming symbolic rather than transformative. Simultaneously, we must avoid adopting an instrument that imposes an unsurmountable burden on some parties to the point where they may be unable to support it or feel compelled to disregard it altogether. Means of implementation must be adequately reflected in the text and genuinely delivered as key enabling tools for many who need them to implement the commitments and after adoption of the treaty. I want to specifically underline that certain chemicals, while not inherently polluting, are increasingly being targeted in the negotiations. They present a real economic challenges for countries whose economy rely heavily on production and trade of such substances. Finally, I want to emphasize that we are in multilateral process, one that demands compromise, mutual understanding, and a constructive spirit to achieve collective success. In this context, I urge all our fellow partners to remain focused and more flexible, working together toward a shared and effective outcome that will be legitimate, implementable, and impactful, demonstrating the triumph of multilateral effort to save our planet and future generations. Thank you.
I thank you, Azerbaijan. Como he dicho antes,
as I said earlier, we have interpretation until 2:30. And in order to close this meeting and move to contact groups, I've heard there's a wish from delegations. Well, the textual matters I would encourage you to discuss in the contact groups, and that way we can conclude this meeting in time by 2:30 p.m. and then begin our work punctually in a timely way in our contact groups.
I'd like to give the floor to Ethiopia, followed by Kazakhstan. Ethiopia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the co-chairs for their tireless dedication and remarkable motivation in guiding us through this negotiation. We stand here at the midpoint of INC 5.2, reflecting on the journey that began with a hope at INC 1. For years, we have been engaging in this crucial process mandated by the global community to deliver a legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution. Yet, as we look around this room, it's clear that we have a long way to go. The stock take session at the beginning of today pointed a stark picture. It showed in no uncertain terms that we have not made significant progress. Instead of moving forward, we continue to see less progressive pattern of negotiation. Chair, distinguished delegates, we cannot skip the reality that the fundamental barrier to the progress has been the continuous effort to use consensus, not as a tool for agreement, but as a mechanism to hold the entire process hostage. This is practice we must collectively reject. Our mandate is to negotiate and to find a common ground. The world is watching. The health of our people, our ecosystems, and our planet hangs in the balance. We must move beyond the practice of litigating all positions and truly engage with the text before us. It's time to take our shared responsibility seriously and use the remaining days of the session to truly deliver on our mandate. Let us turn away from the past and towards a future where a strong, effective, and equitable treaty is a reality, not just a promise. Ethiopia calls on further informal discussions among parties and groups to find common ground, especially to address the challenging articles. Thank you.
And I thank you very much, Ethiopia. Now I give the floor to Kazakhstan, followed by Indonesia.
Distinguished Chair, we would like to sincerely thank you, the host country, Switzerland, the Secretary, and the co-chairs of the contact and informal groups for your great work. After consultation in the contact groups and informals, we see that even for some articles where there was early understanding and approximate agreement, we have now moved backwards. This happens because many discussions lead us back to the question of the exact objective and the scope of the treaty. Where there is no clear understanding of this, the text of each article becomes longer and more complicated. To avoid repeating this situation during the next week, we suggest that we focus more on these key articles and even spend 1 or 2 full days on them. This will make the work on other articles much easier. And we would like to remind that the consensus must be ensured for all decisions. To avoid repeating To avoid repeating this situation, we suggest that focus more on this article, as I mentioned. Regarding your proposed approach of dividing into categories, thank you for suggesting it. We would like to point out that it's important to understand which specific articles you see in each category, and especially in categories 2 and 3. We need to understand it to organize the work of our small delegation. I also wish to note that informal process don't always help. Sometimes they create more questions about the transparency of the negotiations. We therefore ask you to minimize such processes and to make sure that all meetings, including informal ones, are recorded on the INC-5.2 website and seen on the daily schedule. Finally, because our time is becoming shorter, there are situations where not all delegations are given the floor in the contact groups and informal meetings. This also has a negative impact on transparency and should be avoided in the future. Thank you.
I thank you, Kazakhstan. Now I give the floor to Indonesia, followed by Panama.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. Indonesia extends its heartfelt gratitude to the government of Switzerland for its warm hospitality. We extend our appreciation to the NC leadership and co-chair for the effective stewardship in guiding the discussion on the various articles across the contact group. We understand the enormous task ahead of us and wish to express our strong support to the chair and the co-chair. Furthermore, we express our gratitude for the clarification provided and the effort made to rectify errors related to the published assembled text. Indonesia supports the way forward proposed by the chair, endorsing the leadership and guidance of the chair, guided by the principle that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. We reaffirm the importance of adhering to the fundamental principle of the treaty making, emphasizing the inclusive dialogue and consensus building. No one is left behind to have an effective and implementable treaty. Indonesia looks forward for the constructive, collaborative approach from our partner in finalizing the article in the day ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I thank you, Indonesia. Now give the floor to Panama, followed by Tajikistan. Panama, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in this room, every continent, every language, and every faith is represented. We come from deserts and forest lands, from mega cities and mountain villages. And yet, despite our divisions, one thing unites us, not by choice, but by neglect, and that's microplastics. They are in our blood, in our lungs, and in the first cry of a newborn child. Our bodies are living proof of a system that profits from poisoning us. Behind every microplastic also lies a macro lie. And that lie is that recycling alone will save us. Let me tell you something. It will not. We cannot recycle our way out of this crisis. We cannot mop the floor while the pipe is gushing. We cannot tell our people later when the poison is inside us now. Halfway through these negotiations, and we're still tiptoeing around safe talking points across the entire life cycle. We are not here for a diplomatic tourism. We are here to negotiate. We're here to engage. We're here to get a deal that includes the entire life cycle of plastic. That means, Chair, addressing production. That means fair, clear rules that give industry the certainty to innovate. The same clarity that unleashed the revolutions in solar, electric mobility, and renewable energies. Half of all plastics are used once and discarded. That is not innovation, that is human arrogance, the kind that poisons rivers and robs our children of a safe future. A treaty without production measures will be built on sand. A treaty without chemicals of concerns will be soaked in denial. And a treaty without product design will be engineered to fail. To the way speakers clean...
I thank you very much, Panama. Now I'd like to give the floor. Now I'd like to give the floor to Kazakhstan, followed by the Russian Federation. Now I would like to give the floor to Tajikistan. Please, thank you. Tajikistan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, allow us to express our sincere gratitude to you, your team, the Secretariat, and co-chairs and co-facilitators for your and their tremendous efforts in preparing the assembled text before us. Regarding the classification of the developed and developing countries through the text, we have a significant concerns that the current framework in many parts of the text excludes the 16 parties with economies in transition. Mr. Chair, according to the 2024 World Economic Situation and Prospects report by UNEP, economies in transitions are not the intermediary categories between developed and developing nations in economic terms. Rather, they represent a separate group of countries undergoing a shift from centrally planned systems to market-based economies. We believe these 16 nations, including Tajikistan, must not be left behind in the financial mechanisms of this treaty. We firmly believe it is our moral obligation to ensure their inclusion. Therefore, we formally propose that the definition of developing parties in their entire text be expanded to developing parties and parties with economies in transitions in the text. To be clear, Mr. Chair, again, this adjustment is not intended to emphasize or prioritize these countries, but rather to ensure their rightful place within the treaty's provisions. Concerning subcategories such as LDCs, LLDCs, and SEEDs, where we oftenly put these abbreviations in the text, we remain open to consensus building in the contact groups and are prepared to engage flexibly on their application where needed. We kindly request your considerations to this critical amendment. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I thank you, Tajikistan. Now I give the floor to the Russian Federation, followed by Norway.
Chair, on behalf of the Russian Federation, I would like to thank the host country and you personally, as well as the co-chairs, the chairs of the contact groups, the informal groups, and the Secretariat and everyone else for the work we've done over the last week. We don't have very much time left. At this current juncture, we would like to have a text upon which basis we will be able to continue our work. Currently, we don't have such a text. We just have a compilation of proposals. So that we can come to an agreement on its basis, we need to agree on a question of principle with regard to the scope of the agreement, as well as about all of the ways that substantial decisions are to be reached by consensus, we fully support Kuwait's statement, which was made on behalf of a group of like-minded countries. The Russian Federation stands ready to take part in constructive cooperation with all delegations in continuing the negotiation process with a view to its successful conclusion. Thank you.
I thank you, Russian Federation. Now I give the floor to Norway, followed by China.
Thank you, Chair. Norway thanks everyone for their hard work these last days, but we all seem to agree that we are not moving, we are moving too slowly, and that we need a change of gear now. We echo others on the range of possible formats available to us and to you. Chair, you should hold all members accountable to our mandate the next days. What is essential to us is that, as we move forward, we're able to consider the interplay between certain key articles, also articles that are currently in different contact groups. In that work, we must also be open to look at alternatives to the current structure and the format of certain articles. What we cannot do is simply avoid discussion on issues that have strong support in the INC. It is essential that we resolve these points of divergence this weekend so that we can progress in the contact groups from Monday. We need all the time remaining to have in-depth conversations about the text that will go into the final agreement before sending it to the legal drafting group. I thank you.
And I thank you, Norway. Now I give the floor to China, followed by the United Kingdom.
Gratitude to the people and the government of Switzerland for hosting this important meeting. We would also like to extend our thanks to the tireless efforts of the chair, the co-chairs, and the secretariat for the past days. We are happy to see that during the past days of discussion, the member-driven principle has been largely followed in all contact groups and informals. We are happy to see some progress in all contact groups, but we are also very worried about the slow progress in each of the contact groups, and we see the necessity of changing the working mode in the following days. In this regard, we would like to thank you. We would like to provide some concrete suggestions for the consideration of the chair, the co-chairs, and all the members. In the first place, we'll agree with the chair that we need to categorize the articles in different categories according to the extent of convergence. And the important thing is that to encourage the chair, with the help of the co-chairs, to identify the articles and the elements in category 3. In our mind, that may be the articles and the elements that members have a divergent view of with or without articles. That is no or yes. And we think that maybe we can discuss this in a new setting, such as raising the level of discussion to the House of Delegations. And in the new setting, delegations can discuss them article by article or try to find the links among these articles. In this process, it's very important that the chair to carry out intensive consultations with the countries and the regions, and try to seek and understand their biggest concern behind, and try to find out whether there is possibility or impossibility of convergence. And for the category 2 articles and elements, we see strong support for them to be included in the treaty, and they all have good basis from the chair's text. However, in the past several days, we see some more.
Thank you very much to China. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to give the floor to the United Kingdom, followed by Fiji. UK, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The UK would like to thank the co-chairs of the contact groups for the reports and the hard work over the first 5 days. We'll be brief, as we think we have heard all the views and we are keen now to move on to contact groups. We've been heartened by the collaboration and the efforts across regions to engage in discussions, and the UK is proud to have put forward proposals on Article 5 and Article 7 to advance our discussions. However, we must be honest in the assessment of where we are. We came here to conclude a historic and effective treaty, one that finally ends the scourge of plastic pollution. So we need to change in pace and dynamic. We support an acceleration of the work in the contract groups and use of all modalities, including informals and informal informals, with a clear task and flexibility to run groups in parallel and to look across cross-cutting issues. We urge all parties to focus on the goal, trust the co-chairs, and limit interventions to key issues. In parallel, we need to have the discussions on the issues where we are further apart, and we would urge the Chair to make these consultations your priority. These are an integral part of the treaty, and we cannot afford to leave these to the final days. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I thank you, the United Kingdom. Now I give the floor to Fiji, followed by Morocco.
Chair, from the onset, Fiji aligns itself with the statement delivered by Palau on behalf of AOCs and Tuvalu on behalf of PCIDs. Chair, from 22 pages of text, we are now at 34 pages. From 300 square brackets, we are now at 1,488 square brackets. How will we come to a consensus on extremely divergent views? We welcome your program of work, where more time is required to collate views on the articles that still have not received adequate response. But something obviously needs to change. Despite commendable flexibility for many, progress remains slow, constrained by the not by the lack of ideas, but obstruction and procedural paralysis. We reiterate that the scope should be focused on the full life cycle of the plastics and not only on downstream measures. Therefore, we do not welcome the views or suggestions that this should be another waste management treaty. The mandate for UNEP 5.14 is absolutely clear, and suggestions as such are clearly misleading. We therefore seek your clear guidance on how you intend to help parties overcome these roadblocks. We are not on track, and without a course correction, we risk failure. Fiji has some additional suggestions on how to move forward. 1, a disciplined time-bound process that swiftly streamlines provisions in the assembled text to clear brackets. 2, immediate transmission of agreed language from informals to plenary. 3, smaller representative groups and targeted consultations to bridge political and technical gaps. And 4, as stated before, an end to repetitive restatement of entrenched positions. Committee members, as I stated in INC-4 and INC-5.1, to break free from plastics, you need to learn to break free from brackets. Let us close this deal here in Geneva next week. Let us honor and trust the very people we are here to represent, particularly our children and the generations to come. If you can't do it for yourselves, do it for them at least. Minagavalevou.
And I thank you, Fiji. I thank you, Fiji. Now I give the floor to Morocco, followed by the United States of America. Please, Morocco.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Government of Switzerland for its usual hospitality, and I'd also like to thank the Chair, the co-chairs, the co-facilitators for their dedication and their hard work. I would also like to express our support for the statement delivered by Saudi Arabia on behalf of the Arab group. Chair, I think that the purpose of this plenary is not just to present the state of progress or to provide an additional snapshot, as was mentioned yesterday in the various groups. This was also about drawing attention to the constraints that are further holding back progress in negotiations. From our delegation's point of view, on a scale of 1 to 10, we consider we're at stage 3, and this assessment stems from 3 elements that reflect the current state of negotiations. First of all, scope, which is still not clearly defined. Secondly, terminology that has not yet been harmonized. Key terms such as life cycle, plastic products, and plastic production are being used with different understandings from delegation to delegation, and that has a direct impact on consensus. It limits consensus for some articles, and it is also holding back the drafting of other articles. The third problem Chairman, is that the so-called advanced articles may include some delegations' positions, but they contain as many brackets as they do words, which means that they have to be fully rewritten. Continuing work in the same way as we've been working over this last week risks jeopardizing the achievement of our goal, which is to achieve a clear and consensus-based treaty. So, Mr. Chairman, we must focus on the first two elements, ensuring that we swiftly move over all the elements on which there is no major divergence. The chairperson interrupts. Thank you very much to Morocco.
Now I give the floor to the United States of America as our last speaker. Please, the U.S.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say thanks to you, your team, the Secretariat, as well as our co-chairs for the hard work in helping us to make progress over the last several days. We need to move forward in this process with a text that has country ownership and that will lead to an agreement that all countries will join and in the years to come will work together to implement. Chair, I'm not going to give a broad national statement. We understood you had proposed a procedural path forward to help us make more progress. Just to say very specifically that we support your proposal to move forward. I would say I have some slight regret. We heard another delegation from China who was providing an intervention that was directly responsive to the question that you posed to this body, and it was our colleagues from China, and they were unable to complete that intervention. While many other delegations are giving general interventions that we had understood at this meeting, we were not to come and give in plenary, to instead save our time for the contact groups. That said, I'll reiterate what I said. We support your proposed path forward. We would suggest that, as we had understood from the very beginning of this meeting, that we use our time, we return to the contact groups to dig back into the negotiations to try to seek a path forward. As you noted, it's 2:10. We have now used half the day in these discussions rather than in the detailed discussions in contact groups that we need. Thank you.
Now it's working. No. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. We have heard your statements and your suggestions, your comments. I'd like to sincerely thank all of you. We've taken due note of each intervention, and we have heard the need to speed up the pace of our work and to reach concrete achievements in the negotiations of 5.2. We have also heard about the need to use informal meetings in order to provide contact groups with alternatives for seeking common ground and for moving forwards with cleaning up the text that we need to send to plenary and to the legal group. Regarding tomorrow, there was a question about this. We have tomorrow, yes, there are no formal meetings, but I would urge member states to maintain their consultations and informals so as to make the most of tomorrow without there being any formal meetings. We have heard from the Secretariat that the United Nations Palais des Nations will be open for the same hours during which it has been open this week. We have heard that much remains to be done, and we need to make effective and constructive progress. As I said earlier, If you have any concerns about the text during negotiations, including the text which accidentally was omitted, then please inform us of this in the contact groups. Moreover, I would like to underscore that the assembled text is only intended as a summary of progress made in the contact groups. It does not replace nor cancel out the ongoing discussions which member states are holding in the contact groups. I will continue to coordinate things as I have been doing with each of the co-chairs from the contact groups so as to strengthen our work and provide them with the support that they might need, including, as I said earlier, informal meetings with me so as to try and assist them. I also said earlier that we have Articles 31 and 32 that are ready to be sent to the legal drafting group, and I would also ask you to agree to that happening. There is a point of order. Iraq, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was requesting the floor, but I think you skipped our request for the floor. I was on the list, and my microphone was green, but I'm not sure what's the problem.
Yes, thank you, Iraq. It was, yes, I announced that I closed the list of speakers, and I believe there were some requests for the floor, but I have announced that I closed the list of speakers. That's why.
I was requesting the floor earlier. It was from the beginning. I'm not sure for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iraq, but it was announced, and it was after the United States of America, actually our last speaker in our list. But thank you. Thank you for your comprehension. Having said that, I take it as an acceptance from the committee to go that way forward. Thank you very much. We haven't finished yet. Dear colleagues, we are still in this session. We haven't finished yet. The committee has thus concluded this stage of consideration item 4. Distinguished delegates, as I mentioned earlier, let us now consider agenda item 5 on other matters with regard to the diplomatic conference. In this regard, as it has been mentioned, we must remember that UNEP Resolution 5/14 mandates the Executive Director to convene the diplomatic conference. I have requested the Secretariat to prepare and provide to the committee by Monday evening with draft elements for the possible resolutions of the diplomatic conference. The draft will be made available on the website. I will inform delegations on the next steps in due course. So, thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, this brings us to the end of our plenary meeting. Before closing, I would like to invite the Secretariat to provide information on the timing and location of the meetings of the contact groups and the legal drafting group. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, we just wish to share with you some practical information. First, the schedule for this afternoon and this evening will be posted on the website and on the mobile app very shortly. In addition, we wish to share some practical information about catering and access to the venue over the coming days. From tomorrow, Sunday, 10 August, the venue will be accessible between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. Delegates can access the venue via the Peace Gate between 7:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. daily. After 8 p.m., no entry is allowed and exit is only possible via the Premier Gate. Regarding catering, the list of the opening hours of each catering point has been updated in the INC-5.2 information note for participants, as well as in the mobile app under Information. So for today, Saturday, the main cafeteria in this building is exceptionally open until 3 p.m. The Bar Serpent in Building E will be open until 9 p.m. and the Concordia Coffee Corner in Building A will be open until 4 p.m.